Hello everyone and welcome to our tutorial on troubleshooting layered hyperlinks in Google Slides. In a previous tutorial, I showed you how to create interactive activities in Google Slides by using links to create buttons that students can use to move throughout a presentation. We explored using the link feature both through the right-click menu as well as the insert menu available at the top of your screen. Today, we will expand on those concepts and skills by addressing layered objects and common errors that new users tend to face. Today, we will learn that layering objects to create compound buttons requires certain steps to keep the buttons functional. We will expand on our skills of applying hyperlinks within these layered objects, and we will confirm that our steps lead to the intended results. A very common occurrence in the early days of creating interactive tutorials and activities for students is when a teacher has created the buttons and made links to the appropriate slides. However, the teacher enters presentation mode and finds that the buttons are not working, even though he or she followed the steps. The steps were followed accurately and the link is correct. So how can this be? Let's play with a broken button in practice. As you can see, when I click on a majority of this button, nothing happens. But when I click on the very edge, it seems to be working. The teacher in our scenario didn't do anything wrong. He or she simply missed a step. It is important to remember that even though a text box is usually transparent, Google Slides considers text boxes, images, and objects as separate clickable areas. This means that when you layer objects on top of each other, each layer and object have their own options and settings that can be applied. This means that when you layer an unlinked object on top of a linked object, the clickability of the linked object becomes impaired. There is a barrier between where you are clicking and the object that is linked. So let's talk about the steps to fix this issue. Adding a text box or additional image on top of an existing linked item or button can provide more clarity and direction to students. We just need to remember that each layer then requires its own link. All we have to do is first locate the unlinked layer. Selecting the individual layers can actually help us to determine what's going wrong with this button right away. When I select the text box, I see immediately that there is no slide link applied. As it is layered over our arrow that does have the link applied, it's covering a majority of our button and negating the clickability of that button. The next step would then be to follow the procedures we learned in our previous tutorial of applying a link to the text box in addition to the shape below. As our shape is already linked, we just need to link the boundary of the text box. I will make sure that the slide link I am applying to the text box matches the slide linked for the arrow. I will also make sure that I have the text box shape selected, not just the text. I will then right-click on the text box and locate Link in the menu in order to apply a matching link to our object below. Then I will check that the slide designations match between the object and the text box. The final step is to make sure we have correctly improved the clickability of our button by re-entering slideshow or presentation mode and testing the button. I can see that the link has been applied to both the object and the text box above, and that the links match. So I will now re-enter slideshow mode and click our button. And that seems to be working. Now let's take it one step further. I have created an end tutorial button by layering 3 objects. Based on our learning in this short tutorial, should I link only the bottom layer, the top and bottom layer, or all 3? If you said all 3, then you are correct. The best practice is to link all elements that create a button in order to ensure that no matter where our learners click, the button will function. Providing clarity or visual interest with multi-layered buttons can be a great strategy when done correctly. And our button works. You should now know how to diagnose layer issues and apply multiple links to create interactive activities for your students, and how to troubleshoot and test buttons in an upcoming activity that you will design. Thank you for joining me for today's tutorial on troubleshooting layered hyperlinks in Google Slides.